Camera and lenses. The ways that cameras are used are different through both knowledge of the equipment and the ideas of the individual. If the ideas are good and the person knows how to use the equipment, then the final product will be good. However, good ideas need to be planned and knowledge needs experience. From making this magazine, I have learnt how to plan a good product and have used my knowledge and experience with a camera to produce my final ideas. Using the right type of camera is the first step. Using a camera with low megapixels and a small sensor is bad, as images when blown up will be low quality and blurry. I use my Nikon D7200, which is an APS-C sensor. This is ideal for images as it has a 24 megapixel sensor and performs well in low light, that allows flexibility with creative lighting. And images when blown up will still remain sharp. Using the camera in manual mode allows for full control of settings and creates a good image in camera, so that in post you'll have less editing, which can sometimes ruin the photo. This camera lets you shoot in RAW. When shooting RAW, it allows all the information to be taken into the sensor, so in post the features can be pushed to the limit and still leave you with a sharp image. However, these files can be much bigger, but it's worth the sacrifice. The right type of lens is the most essential of all. If you don't put the right type of glass in front of your camera's sensor, it will produce a horrible image. For the portrait of Emily for my contents page, I used a 50mm 1.8G lens, and for my front page and double page spread, I used an 18 to 105mm 3.5 lens. This gives me a large range of focal lengths and a variety of f-stops. Portraiture is the focus on an individual that you are taking a photo of. By using a lens that produces a large amount of bokeh, it will leave the person in focus while blurring the background, drawing focus to the subject and not anything that can distract you in the background. While using a large focal range lens when taking group photos and action shots, it gives you the ability to control the amount of space around your subjects and quickly adjust to your surroundings. In addition to using a non-prime lens, it gives you more control over the background too. It can let you flatten the backgrounds to the subjects at large focal lengths and then bring it away from the subject at lower focal ranges. Balancing the settings of your camera are things to look out for when taking pictures. Needing sharp blacks and clear highlights while trying not to under or overexpose a photo are hard to achieve, plus natural lighting is hard to control and your camera can't do it all. That's where lights come in. For my front page and contents page, I was supplied with professional grade ARRI lights by my friend James from his dad's studio. That's another thing, a studio. A studio is one of the best things you can have when it comes to controlling light. A room dedicated to controlling light by keeping it out and keeping in your light. This also provides backdrops and areas for taking photos. Anyway, back to the lights. I used two ARRI lights and a small light on the ceiling suspender. These lights are very powerful. They produce a large amount of light which is useful as you can use high shutter speeds to have crisp images when taking photos. Lighting is essential to get right. They allow you to create shadows or get rid of them completely. I used mine in a way that created multiple shadows which I liked as it gave character to the photo. The multiple shadows in the photo could also link to multiple personality traits of the model or so on. To distinguish these shadows, I used gels to give the lights different colours. Lights create highlights and shadows depending on where you place them. The focus of the light on something will create a white area where the light is most focused, and this is the highlight of the subject. The subject will also create shadow depending on how many lights you use and where you place them. For example, for my contents page I used 3 lights. One main light on the right side of her face. This was to create my highlight and give the face more definition by creating shadows on the other half. However, one light was too much and creating too much shadow. This was then helped by adding a second fill light on the other side of her face. This created an image that still had shadow, but one that wasn't too harsh and contrasting. Finally, a very small light in the background to illuminate the backdrop, creating a type of light halo behind her head. All these lights came together to create a good lit image. Adobe has blessed us with amazing programs to help us create, and Photoshop is one of them. With the knowledge of the program, you can just about create anything. Using it to create good images and products is essential to bring the magazine to life. Being able to edit the photo, add text and graphics to the image is needed to have a finished product. I was pretty resourceful with Photoshop before the task was set but I learnt a few things from the process. In addition, I started learning how to use a new program altogether, Lightroom. Lightroom is another Adobe product, but is more focused on the photography side of things, giving complete control over nearly every aspect of the photo. While Photoshop offers things like contrast and levels adjustment, and the most basic of colour correction, Lightroom goes much deeper. With things such as being able to change the hue of certain colours, and the colour of the highlights and the shadows, and also being able to create gradients of edits. This provides huge amounts of flexibility for minuscule details that improve photos dramatically. In addition to this, it gives you access to a very important tool called an adjustment curve. This provides a curve that lets you edit blacks, shadows, midtones, highlights and whites all in one area that also link together and give you different creative results. I could then bring this image into Photoshop straight from Lightroom and add things to make it into a proper music magazine. In Photoshop, I learnt a new technique to give graded filter on photos. This is done by choosing two colours of your choice in the first and second colour panels, and then I created a gradient layer. You then turn this layer from a normal layer to a pin layer or a screen layer. This will create an effect that kind of wraps around the photo. Then you can edit the opacity and the fill of this layer to create a good match with your photo. In addition to photo editing and discovering new techniques, I also learnt a lot about the layout of magazines. I did this through the power of the internet. The internet is used by nearly everyone and provides bottomless amounts of information on just about anything. This may not be a technique learnt, as I've been using the internet for as long as I can remember, but using it as a tool and discovering things is learning in some form. I use the internet to find out how indie music magazines are presented and the connotations that follows these presentations. This helped influence how my magazine was set out and provided the connotations of how they should be set out and give certain feels.